Modern marketing changes fast, and great marketers need an edge. Marketers from challenger brands need to be especially brave. This season, all our guests are from challenger brands. Join us as they unveil the strategies and tactics behind the risks that they've taken. They'll talk about the biggest, boldest marketing campaigns that got their brand noticed and made an impact in the industry. Hosted by Brave Software and me, Donnie DeVoren, head of sales at Brave. Join me to get fresh, new perspectives and the inspiration to say yes to brave marketing moments. You're listening to a new episode of the Brave Marketer podcast. Thanks for joining us. This week, we're really excited to have Jeremy Epstein on. Jeremy's the CMO at GTM Hub, and they're the world's leading SaaS provider enabling OKR software. And if you're not familiar with OKRs, they're objective and key results goal-setting methodology. And really the idea is that everybody cross-department can be on the same page as far as what are the actual outcomes someone is trying to achieve in the quarter. And in December 2020, GTM Hub raised the largest Series B round in the history of the category, $30 million. And they're serving a lot of great brands like Société Générale, CNN, Adobe, Red Hat, and TomTom. So prior to GTM Hub, Jeremy was the VP of Marketing at Sprinklr. And concurrently, Jeremy serves as the co-chief investment officer of the Crypto Kitties Fund, which is a thesis-driven hedge fund that identifies undervalued, high-potential blockchain-based tokens in the emerging crypto asset class. And with no further ado, here's another episode of The Brave Marketer. Why don't we start with a very general question? Welcome you to the podcast, The Brave Marketer. And just why don't you tell us what's the most exciting thing you're working on right now?
Well, it's an honor to be here. I love the name Brave Marketer. Very simple yet elegant, which is the best kind of marketing. GTM Hub is the leading provider of software for companies that are committed to the objectives and key results, or OKR methodology. And the market's just blowing up as more and more people adopt the OKRs as the way to achieve results with some degree of predictability, align themselves across teams, large and small, have accountability, what have you. And COVID just accelerated that trend, obviously, as more people go to remote work and we try to align strategy and execution. So that's been amazing. It has been challenging because whereas if you're selling something like Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok, you get that immediate dopamine hit and you feel that. With OKRs and the software and the platform and the solution around orchestrating results that we sell, it really requires a sustained commitment by executive leadership and people throughout the organization. So that makes it challenging to immediately feel how valuable and how transformative this approach to doing business can be. And it is transformative. So that's really exciting, but it makes it challenging to explain what this new world can be when you just empower your people to go out and do their best work and you tell them what the outcomes are that you expect, and then you step back and you just let them do it. You know, we're creating a category and it requires a mindset shift from this 9-to-5 output mentality of like, how much work have you done, to I don't really care where you work or when you work. I care about the outcomes and I'm not going to watch you every moment.
I mean, at Brave, we've talked about implementing an OKR strategy, but I think that it's one of those things where it's never the top of the list. It's never a priority. It's always, oh, that'd be great if we did OKRs. And then I don't even know if people know that there's OKR softwares out there. So there's that awareness. Well, number one, how do you find the companies that even thought about having an OKR framework? And then number two is, how do you get them to choose yours?
You've nailed a critical issue, which is there are many people say that would be nice, but it's not my number one priority today. And so because like diet and exercise, it would be nice if I dropped 15 pounds, but like today I'm going to have the ice cream and tomorrow. So I think you've nailed that issue. And what our marketing challenge is how do we tell a story that investment is going to pay off big time down the road. And you'll start to see those results after 30, 60 or 90 days when, Our employee engagement surveys come back, they're higher than other companies because of the way that people are empowered, the sense of accountability, the sense of the ability to understand why what you're doing matters. You see how it all connects. That's a tremendously fulfilling position to be in. But how do you tell that story when so many people are used to working in that old industrial age mindset, even for digital companies?
And I bet you even showing the ROI is difficult because someone would say, we were going to do that, or we were going to accomplish that anyway. We didn't need the software.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
hard to say, oh, it's because of the software.
yeah, well, I mean, one of the things we've seen is like 70% of first time OKR efforts fail. It's just because it's really hard. And as far as the software, like a lot of people say we can do it without software. We can do it in spreadsheets. We can do it in PowerPoint. You can't. You're going to fail. So you understand the crux of the issue. And that's the marketing challenge. But, that's what marketing is. That's what makes it fun is you get to try to tell a story in a creative way. I don't think we've cracked the code yet, but we're working on it.
Can you tell the audience about your brave marketing moment? I'm sure you've had many, but just to choose one.
I'd say back in 2012, I was very deeply involved in the social media world, which sounds like crazy right now. But at that point, people were still thinking like Facebook was a fad and why would I ever go on LinkedIn and stuff like that. And I was doing a lot of consulting and I was doing a lot of speaking and it was great. I was making very good money and I got the opportunity to be the head of marketing at an enterprise software management, social media management platform called Sprinklr. And I went up to New York, I met the CEO, saw the tech, and within 3 minutes, I was like, this thing is going to be huge. So the guy offered me the role and I took a 70% pay cut to go join Sprinklr. And I think my wife is still upset about it. But it just felt like I needed to do this. I needed to help. I needed to be a part of this.
Another reason why you're such a great interviewee is because you have so much blockchain experience. This audience is interested in blockchain and in crypto. So we've seen some mainstream brands really embrace crypto and NFTs. I mean, I feel like the past couple months, NFTs are all the rage. What should companies keep in mind if they want to explore this area from a marketing perspective?
I think what people should keep in mind is NFTs are both big, hyped up, but they're also here to stay. So that's sort of issue number one is like, don't dismiss NFTs as sort of, oh, this isn't going to be around just because it's totally hyped right now. I think that's number one. But I think there's a second sort of larger issue that people need to keep in mind, which is in any technology revolution, there's sort of two phases. Phase one is where people say, wow, this tech is super cool. How do we use it to do what we already do better, faster, cheaper? And so a lot of brands now are jumping into like, hey, NFTs are great for loyalty. NFTs are great for customer acquisition. And sure, yes, you should do that. But the more fundamental issue here is that we're on the cusp and we're already seeing it of this great decentralized revolution. And organizations will themselves become decentralized and they'll be community driven and they'll be driven by their token holders and NFT holders. So what does that mean when your entire brand strategy and your marketing strategy is basically crowdsourced by the NFT holders and the token holders that you have, and you don't work for your boss, you work for this community of customers and ecosystem? That's like the first stage of the internet. People were super jacked up about intranets. Okay, great. You should do intranets. They make you more efficient, definitely. But that's not where the game is getting changed. And NFTs in phase one are a vehicle to deliver loyalty and customers. And yes, great. But don't just say that's the be all end all, because the real story is what happens when everything, including money at the base layer, get decentralized. And then how does an organization evolve when it has an entirely new set of stakeholders, which are basically token or NFT holders? And that's going to take a while, but I think like, what's the impact of the arrival of the decentralized world more than how do we use these decentralized technologies?
Do you have like a favorite use case of a brand or one that you think a brand should do to use NFTs?
You can't talk about NFTs and mainstream brands without talking about Dapper Labs. It's just not possible. Those guys, I had the privilege of working with them for a while and helped write version one of the Flow blockchain white paper. They are some of the smartest people I've ever met for sure. And they invented
And
NFTs.
for the listeners, they're like Crypto Kitties.
Yeah, they invented NFTs. Crypto Kitties was the first one that they did. But for them, it's Top Shot. And they always said, look, this thing is going to be consumer driven. And the only way it's going to be consumer driven is if we partner with brands that people already know and love. So that's why they partnered with the NBA. That's why they partnered with Dr. Seuss. They understand that when it comes to these types of things, the best tech doesn't always win. It needs great marketing, brave marketing, I might add, to go along with it, and an understanding of the market, which is, I'm not going to be able to sell you on NFT if you don't know what it is, but I am going to be able to sell you on a LeBron James dunk. And I think that's, to me, they're like the Apple, the Harvard of the NFT space at the moment.
Are you able to bring anything from crypto or blockchain to GTM Hub?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like what I think crypto reminds you is that so much of this success comes down to community. We sort of see there's this group of OKR champions. There are people who say, okay, my job is to implement OKRs to make everyone successful and drive this. And they understand the ins and outs. They understand the methodology. They understand what the rhythm and the frequency should be. And then there's usually an economic buyer who's like, oh my God, my team of teams is a total mess. I need to do something. And then they realize that there's a way to orchestrate results across all of these functions, and OKRs is that way. What we've really worked hard at is creating a community from all of these big global brands of OKR champions, and really trying to bring some of that respect for and deference to and listening to the community that we've brought in. As far as like some of the more advanced things like NFTs and what have you, I have that up my sleeve, but I sort of wanted to make sure that I had some of the basics covered before we got into that. Crypto accelerates the trend that social media started, which is it's not about the brand having power over customers. It's about communities having power over brands. In crypto, it's like if your community loses faith in you, it's game over.
So marketing's definitely changed with COVID. What's really breaking through, and what can other B2B marketers glean from your insights here?
Like you said at the beginning, it's deliver the value first. So basically, we go to C-level executives, and we have other C-level executives who help us write a white paper, or we'll have these series where it's like a white paper and then a webinar and a podcast and a whole theme around the challenges that COOs face or CS. People want to know, what are their peers doing? So my boss at Microsoft way back in the day, he said to me, marketing just comes down to rhythm and process. All the sexy stuff, like, yeah, that's great. Marketing, I think I told you, is like a wedding cake, right? Everyone pays attention to the icing and the decorations and like, wow, that's amazing. But 96% of that cake is just batter. If you don't know how to bake a cake, it doesn't matter how much icing you put on top because it's going to look like crap. Do you have the internal operations? Do you have the right people? Are you able to put yourself in the right events? Are you creating value in your content? Is your social strategy like actually connecting with people in a relevant way? Or are you promoting yourself? Like that's just the cake baking. Once you have those layers, then you can step back and say, okay, now I'm going to go a little crazy with the icing. And so I've been in role for about a year and a half, and I'd say most of this has just been baking the cake.
It's so interesting that being in sales and heading up sales at Brave, it's like the perfect model for the OKR. The outcome is the sales. And it's like, I don't care how many, I mean, I do care how many sales calls you do, how many emails you send, how many phone calls, like all the blocking and tackling stuff. But I only dig into it if they haven't hit the outcome. It's for the people who aren't hitting the outcome, and then you gotta peel it back.
Sales always gets it. Exactly. It's what is your quota? And barring anything illegal, like I think you can just go do what you need to do. If you make one call and you hit your quota, like theoretically, you're a Jedi Master. Enjoy the rest of the quarter on the beach.
Exactly. A lot's changed over the past 20 years. What's no longer working? What's worked well in the past where it's just like, let's just take this out of the playbook?
I'm not sure I'm ready to take it out of the playbook, but it definitely needs an upgrade, which one for sure is email. It is just everybody relies on it too much, and you just have to really be super talented to stand out. Think about it. Like you look at the subject line and and you've already decided. LinkedIn sort of falls in that category as well. Like any of that type of thing, it's really tough. And I think we probably have an over reliance on it because it's just there and you get it and whatever. There's a part of me that says, forget the whole thing and just blow it up. I tell people we're basically laundering money from our VCs to Google and Facebook. That's all we do, And I just feel like, there's got to be a way to get better results and help me understand how to use my advertising dollar more effectively. How do I use it to be smarter in my testing as opposed to just doing the traditional stuff? Like, we spend a lot of money on that and we get a pretty good return. I've got an amazing performance marketing team that does it, but all things considered, it just feels like there's so much better we can do, and it pains me. Those are probably two that I'd say are up for reassessment.
Yeah, we were doing monthly emails. Now we're at every other week. We were just looking at the data a minute ago. I mean, we've gone to weekly. I've been talking to Shez, who's on our marketing department, about making the emails more bite-sized. Like, every email that comes out from our company doesn't have to be a Megillah, of, okay, there's 6 things that we did this month. I'm like, let's just get this out weekly. Let's just get this out and pick one thing.
It should fit on one phone screen. Give me 2 bullet points. You want a link from those? That's fine. If it requires my thumb, you failed.
What do you think about your competitors? I'll list a few questions. You don't have to answer them all, but like, who are they and how closely do you watch what they're doing? And how do you compete with them? And what do you avoid when it comes to competing with them?
Honestly, I don't think about our competitors very much. I want them to think about me. I mean, there's really only one company that we run into. When I started, there were probably like 10 to 15 companies that we would run into. Through a lot of work from many groups of people, we've been able to really get to the point where we are viewed as the premier player. And there's one others who's like in the hunt with us because every big company needs to have a bake-off. It's called Workboard. I honestly don't think about that because I am so confident in our leadership, our strategy, our execution, the way we use our cars, and most importantly, the product we have is designed for this future. The product that they have is designed for like the past. And so it's going to be a dogfight for the short term. But as companies start to embrace the outcome mindset and they start to do things larger and larger at scale, as many of our clients are doing, do you want a horse and buggy from Workboard or do you want a car? We got the car.
Right.
I'm not saying we're a Lamborghini just yet, but we're a car and they're a horse and buggy.
Now, you guys, you're spending some money on Google and Facebook. Does privacy come up? What are you guys thinking about privacy over there?
Yeah, I mean, while we're in a dogfight for sort of global supremacy right now, we are the dominant provider in Europe. And when you're in Europe, like, you have to take privacy seriously. Like, GDPR is, non-negotiable. So we're the only SOC 2 Type 2 certified provider in the space. So we've had all the audits, we've had all these types of things that basically say, you guys are as locked down as they come. So that's just sort of maintaining the privacy. And a second thing is, I'm a data minimalist. I say, look, yes, maybe I'll ask for your email, but sometimes I don't even need that. I'm just giving you this stuff away. And a lot of times it's like, I'm not going to ask you a 37 form question. I want to earn the right to more information. You have to give it to me because you want to talk to us, not because I'm demanding it and I'm gating this particular piece of content. So it's an experiential thing, but it's also a privacy thing. I said to the team the other day, with Apple's recent change, and I think what Facebook's outage the other day reminded us of how centralized and how powerful they are, is I said to the team, you need to start thinking as if you live in a world where there's no data about customers available, which is the Web 3.0 world. So it's like the only thing you have there is my Ethereum address and the balance and the transaction, everything that's on chain. So like marketing, I believe, is going to head in the direction of Web 3 because Web 3 is going to eat Web 2 eventually. And in a Web 3 world, you're not totally anonymous, but it's whatever's on chain and whatever you voluntarily disclose. And that's a very different than, let me go to LinkedIn, let me go to Zoom info, and let me just suck down all this data and whatever. So it's a different mentality. And it will require new types of marketing tactics, some of which haven't been invented yet. But NFTs and Brave answer all those problems. So there you go.
Yeah. Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on the Brave Marketer podcast. Any last thoughts for the listeners?
I think continue to demand value. And I'd say punish those marketers that don't deliver value. Like I saw a thing from Seth Godin the other day that I'm making numbers up, but it was something like 9% of the people would rather delete an email than unsubscribe from the mailing list. And every day I'm like, no, I don't read this. There's no value. And I unsubscribe. And I'm just like, the more you clear out your life of noise by getting rid of the irrelevant, the better we'll all be off, because those marketers who are lazy and sending me irrelevant newsletters that I don't read, they're going to know for a fact that I don't read it because I'm going to unsubscribe.
How can our listeners find you? Maybe plug your daily newsletter as well,
Sure.
your blog?
So I blog every day at blog.neverstopmarketing.com. Heavy on the crypto, but plenty of other stuff that we will drop on occasion. JER979 on Twitter. That's my big one. And then if you're interested in learning about how OKRs can revolutionize your life, I would go to GTMHub.com and take a look and let me know if you think the story is being told well and what have you. But I'd say those are the 3 ways to stay connected. And as Donnie said, I love hearing feedback on the blog post and on the website. So don't be shy. That's the only way I can get better.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was so great catching up with you.
Likewise.
And
honored to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Brave Marketer podcast. I have a question for you. Do you want to stay on top of everything that's going on with Brave ads? Are you a marketer? Do you want to know about our new product launches? Do you want to know about marketing in a cookieless world? Do you want exclusive content and industry insights? Well, there's a very, very easy way to do that. And that's signing up for our Brave Ads Insider newsletter. And you can do that at brave.com/ad news. Again, that's brave.com/ADNEWS. And one other special treat for you listeners. Do you want some Brave swag? Some free Brave swag? Well, if you do, just do 2 things. Write us a review on Apple Podcasts, and then just tell us that you wrote us a review so we know. Add sales@brave.com. So again, we're going to send you swag. All you got to do is write a review and email us at adsales@brave.com. And finally, musical credits go to my older brother, Ari, and special thanks to Sam and Shez for all their amazing production work. And until next time,